On location in the Holy Land, David Taviner from UCB travels with Bible teacher and church pastor Mike Beaumont to trace the life of Jesus then and now.
This podcast series, Mike, is called Jesus Then and Now. Explain a little bit about where we're going and what the purpose of it is.
Well, we're going to take our listeners on a really exciting adventure. We're going to follow in the footsteps of Jesus in the Holy Land, tracing his life from the moment of that announcement of his coming into the world, through his early years, how he was launched into ministry, how he spent those 3 years ministering, especially in the area around the Sea of Galilee. We'll be looking at some of his visits to Jerusalem and how that life climaxed in his death and resurrection for us. And we're going to be doing that by being on location at lots of sites around the Holy Land, sites that people will have read about in their Bibles, but we want to try and bring it alive by setting the scene, describing where we are and what we're looking at, but constantly looking at what Jesus did in those places, and just as important, Jesus then and now, what that means for us today.
We're by the Sea of Galilee, the water lapping around our feet virtually, very close by indeed. When you come to this part of the world, what most impresses you? What most impacts you, should we say?
Do you know what? Probably right where we are now. There are all sorts of things to see when you come on a visit to the Holy Land, whether it's a literal visit as we are doing, or a visit that people are going to join us on our podcasts and broadcasts. But, you know, it falls into two broad camps. There's the very religious sites, if you like. There's the religious buildings and the churches that commemorate certain things. And there are what I would call the more natural sites, like the Sea of Galilee. And for me personally, it's the natural ones that impact me the most, for the simple reason that I sit here looking out across the Sea of Galilee and think, my goodness, it was like this when Jesus was here. Now, clearly some of the infrastructure and houses and buildings have changed, but you know, the sea's the sea and the hills are the hills. And for me, it just brings alive that this was a real place where a real person walked with a real message that's still as transformational today as ever it was when he first brought it.
When you come here, do you get a much better sense of distances and the geography and the whole visual picture of the Bible?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing really that can replace coming here, though we're going to try very hard to replicate that for people who can't or won't. But, you know, when you come here, you do get a sense of distance, how far it is from Nazareth to Capernaum. We read it in our Bibles, and Jesus went down to Capernaum. But, you know, it's probably 3 or 4 days' walk. And you come here to the Holy Land and you experience intense heat, 33, 34, 35 degrees centigrade during the day. And you're walking in that sort of temperature, and it brings home to you what those distances really meant for him. Or you look at the River Jordan, and when I talk about the Jordan to people, often they have an image of it in their own mind. Talk to friends in the USA and they think, oh, it's probably like the Mississippi. Talk to people in England and they think it's probably like the River Thames. Do you know what? You can probably throw a stone across it. So things take on a vastly different perspective from when you're simply reading the text. And we want to help our listeners sort of come and engage with it, and we'll be trying to explain so much of what it is that we're experiencing so that they can join in that experience with us too.
Not everybody obviously has the opportunity of coming to Israel and
Sure.
having a look around. So you don't have to come here to be a proper Christian.
Absolutely not. Do you know what? The vast majority of Christians will never come to the Holy Land. And the great thing about the message of Jesus is that he's relevant for every person in every age, in every time and place. And through his Holy Spirit, he can be with us wherever we are. So absolutely we can be a Christian without coming here. And do you know what? Coming here doesn't make you a more holy or even a better Christian in itself. But if we can come here, it's like things come alive. You know, I'm old enough to remember the day when black and white TV suddenly transitioned to colour. And when you've seen it in colour, you never want to see it in black and white again. And coming to the Holy Land is a bit like your TV suddenly acquiring colour after years in black and white. Things simply come alive. And as you say, not everyone has the opportunity to come here. So on our journey, we want to try and paint a picture for them that will help them when they read their Bibles, so that it can come alive in new ways, even though they may never have been here.
And you said this series is called Jesus Then and Now. There's a danger, I suppose, it could just be a history lesson.
We're absolutely not going to make it that. We will touch on some history, we will touch on some geography, but when we do, it will always be to make the message of Jesus more relevant and more alive, and we'll always be looking to bring it to, so what? What does all that mean for us today?
When you come here, it must affect you spiritually. How does it affect you spiritually?
Do you know what? I've been to Israel many times now, and I get impacted by different things in different ways, but I never leave untouched, even though I've been to some of these places several times. And very often for me, it's the unexpected thing that catches me out. There's a stone staircase in Jerusalem that Jesus undoubtedly would have walked down as he went from the house of Caiaphas to go into the city where he would be crucified. And I look at those steps and I'm moved. The first time I ever saw them, I just burst into tears unexpectedly. And that's the great thing about being here. There's always a surprise round the corner. And sometimes it's different surprises round different corners. But we'll try and help our listeners have some of those corners and some of those surprises for themselves.
And starting here in the north, in Galilee, and then heading to Jerusalem, does that also help to make sense of the story?
Yeah, in fact, we're going to start in Galilee over at Nazareth, where the story all began, when the angel Gabriel came with his announcement of news to Mary. And we'll be following that, and we'll see quite a transition even today from the sort of calm and peace of this area around Galilee to the hustle and bustle of city life in Jerusalem. Do you know what? It was just the same in the time of Jesus. So that sort of journey helps us follow the sort of journey that Jesus himself would have made.
And coming to the end of that journey, what do you most hope anybody who's heard this will get from it?
We've called the series Jesus Then and Now. And I'm hoping that by our helping people to dig into Jesus then a little bit deeper, a little bit better, setting his teaching and his miracles and his sayings into context at the time, will help bring it alive even more for today. Because the more we understand of what happened then, the more we'll say, aha! So that's the implication for me today. And I'm absolutely convinced we're going to see that again and again and again as we follow through this excellent series of Jesus Then and Now.
Mike Beaumont and David Taviner in the Holy Land, tracing the life of Jesus then and now. Check out the UCB website for the free episode guide with photos, Bible references and background information. Go to ucb.co.uk/Jesus Then and Now. And you can hear more 30-minute conversations with Mike and David talking about the Bible on the UCB Player app. Under podcasts, just select Bible Books, Bible Biogs or Bible Surprises.